Ingles.fm, Real English Conversations, Series 1. Podcast 2, Living and Working Abroad, Viviendo y Trabajando en el Extranjero. Este podcast contiene una conversación real y sin guión entre dos hablantes nativos de inglés, Mark y Tom. Oirás primero la conversación y a continuación una clase de inglés con explicaciones en español. Cada podcast viene con un workbook detallado que puedes descargar desde nuestra página web ingles.fm. Incluye una transcripción completa de la conversación, listas de vocabulario, notas culturales y la clase. Recuerda que los miembros de nuestra lista de distribución reciben gratis transcripciones extra de nuestros podcasts, además de muchas otras cosas gratis. Así que no olvides apuntarte al consultar la página. ¡Buena suerte!
Hi, my name's Tom, and I'm sitting here with Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Tom.
Today, we're talking to you from Plaza Real in Barcelona. Could you describe our surroundings, Mark?
It's a very old, beautiful square, just by the Ramblas in the centre of Barcelona. It's a square surrounded by lots of shuttered, balconied old buildings, flats, and the ground floor. Around all four sides of the square are many restaurants, cafeterias and bars.
Yep, and it's getting pretty busy because it's about lunchtime and everyone's hiding away from the heat of the day now, and they're going to have their long lunches here. And today we're going to talk a bit about living and working abroad, which is something we've been doing for quite a long time. So, firstly, we're going to explain what we were doing in the UK before we left. What were you doing, Mark, and where were you living?
Well, I'm from London originally, so I went to school and university there. And after university, I worked for a number of years in telecoms. And that ended abruptly with the telecoms crash in 2002.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, we both went to university in London. I'm from Oxford originally, and I worked in various jobs in London before I left, including as a bar manager, and in the music industry for 2 years, and after that I worked in IT as a web developer.
That's quite a broad range.
Yeah, and we both lived abroad for a number of years now. How long have you lived abroad?
Nearly 8 years. I left not long after I lost my job in London in 2002.
And tell us where you've been.
Well, I went to Australia, to Sydney, via South Korea for a stopover. While I was in Sydney, I went to Fiji for a couple of weeks and returned to Australia. After that, I had to leave Australia.
What happened?
I didn't get a job because of the telecommunications crash, and towards the end of my time, there was a little accident, shall we say.
Can you describe your accident?
I fell off a faulty balcony and broke my neck.
Oh dear. So you then found yourself back in Scotland in the middle of winter, yes, unemployed?
Where my parents were living at that time, so I was unemployed on the dole in Scotland. And it was then that I decided that the UK wasn't for me, and that if I couldn't live in Australia, then I would definitely live in Spain.
So how long have you been in Spain?
Nearly 5 years.
Okay. And myself, I spent 2 years in Sydney. I left England a year after Mark, and then spent 3 years living and working in Thailand, and then almost a year travelling and doing a little bit of work through Central and South America. And following that, I've been in Spain for a year. Just recently is my 1 year anniversary in Spain.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So what are some of the best things about living abroad?
In my opinion, the weather is a big factor, as it is with most people from Northern Europe. So living anywhere hot is important. But along with that, there's the quality of life, the cost of living, the learning a new language, the meeting new people.
And for me, in Thailand particularly, the food was incredible and very, very cheap. Again, the weather, it was very hot, much less stressful lifestyle there. Everyone takes things a bit slower. That might be because of the heat. But I really also enjoy learning new languages as well. So in Thailand, I tried to learn Thai. And, I like to do cultural things. I learned quite a lot about Buddhism and the general culture in Thailand, and I really enjoyed that about living abroad.
It's always another aspect rather than visiting, where you spend a week on the beach and a week sightseeing. you actually live somewhere, you get to meet the people, speak the language, you can learn so much more.
Yeah, and you end up making local friends as well, and I think that, you know, that's the way to learn the most about a place and a culture, is actually get to know the people that who've grown up there and lived there their whole lives.
And any disadvantages? We've listed quite a lot of advantages.
Yeah, well, obviously homesickness. Now, I've been homesick briefly in Thailand when I first arrived because of the culture shock. Sometimes when you arrive in a new culture that's very different to your own, it can be quite shocking, and we call that culture shock. Have you ever had culture shock at all?
I have, but not from living abroad. For example, my first travelling experience out of Europe, when we went to Morocco, was a very big shock for me at 18, 19 years of age in an Islamic country. And again in 2002, going to South Korea on the stopover. I couldn't understand a thing written, spoken. It was impossible to buy food. So I had to do something I very much regretted at the time and now, but I had to eat in fast food restaurants because I knew what I was ordering.
Yeah, and some other disadvantages are obviously, well, part of being homesick is missing your family and friends. And obviously there's something else as well, the red tape or the bureaucracy.
Yes.
Now in Thailand I had to, for example, every 30 days I had to get on my bicycle and cycle to Burma, otherwise known as Myanmar, to get a new visa. So I had to leave the country and come back in every 30 days for the first 2 years I was there. And obviously that cost money. What's an example in Spain of some of the red tape that you've had to go through?
Well, when you first arrive here and you're looking to work, you have to get what they call a NIE, an NIE. It's basically a foreigner's identification number. And for that you need an address. So often you need to find an address without a NIE before you get the NIE. But I was lucky because I went with friends and they said I was living with them, which I was at the time. But opening bank accounts, registering yourself to be self-employed with the tax office and with the social security so you can get medical treatment, things like that. It's a lot of stuff to do, involves a lot of paper and a lot of time.
Yeah, I've actually just got my NIE in Spain and it wasn't too painful. It took a couple of visits to some governmental place, I can't remember the name of it, but I've finally got it and I'm officially in Spain now. So some other bad things about living abroad, for me, well, in the tropics in Thailand were the tropical diseases. I ended up getting typhoid while I was in Vietnam before I went to Australia, and then I had dengue fever just before I left Thailand.
My God.
So obviously there's lots of mosquitoes, lots of heat. It can be quite oppressive for people from colder climates. And what else? Oh yes, the noise pollution in Thailand. You had to, coming from England, everyone's quite respectful about noise and there are laws and rules about noise. But in Thailand, everyone is just making the most noise they possibly can at all times of day and night. So I had to sleep with earplugs. And yeah, it took me a while to get used to it.
Well, as you can hear, Spain's quite noisy. We have some construction work in the background, but you also find here in Spain that people with their car horns, any time of day or night, are banging their car horns, especially in celebration. The other week Spain won the World Cup, and the noise in Barcelona was incredible, till 4, 5 in the morning.
Yeah, so in conclusion, is it worth it?
Definitely. I would recommend it to anyone, if not forever, and definitely I would say that it's necessary or very advantageous to at least experience living abroad once.
Yep, in my opinion, you should take the plunge. You'll never look back.
I agree.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hola, me llamo Rosario, y en la clase de inglés de hoy vamos a centrarnos en la palabra shock, una palabra con varios usos en inglés. Shock significa una reacción emocional o física a un acontecimiento o experiencia inesperada y normalmente desagradable. En su conversación, Mark y Tom hablaban de culture shock, que es la confusión que siente alguien que visita un país o un lugar que no conoce, donde la cultura es muy diferente. Otro uso muy parecido y común de shock es decir que algo es a shock to the system, que implica una fuerte sensación de asombro personal. Por ejemplo, al hablar de cuando llegó a Tailandia, Tom podría decir:
When I arrived in Thailand, the climate was a real shock to the system.
Otro uso muy habitual de shock es describir un electric shock, el repentino dolor que se siente cuando nos pasa la electricidad al cuerpo. Por ejemplo,
Mark got an electric shock from his television last night.
el verbo to shock significa hacer que alguien se enfade o se sorprenda. Por ejemplo,
Juan sometimes shocks his mother with his bad language. Yesterday, Juan shocked his boss by wearing a dress to the office.
por último, el adjetivo shocking significa ofensivo, muy malo o sorprendente. Por ejemplo,
Child abuse is a shocking crime. The quality of the food last night was absolutely shocking. It was shocking to see heavy snow in Barcelona in March.
por último, como a los hispanohablantes nos cuesta en especial pronunciar la forma en pasado de los verbos regulares en inglés que acaban con K, podéis practicar la pronunciación de las siguientes palabras durante las pausas.
Shocked. Shocked. Worked. Worked. Asked. Asked. We hope you don't have any shocks in the future when you hear this word.
Gracias por acompañarnos con este podcast de Inglés.fm. Recuerda que el workbook contiene una transcripción completa de la conversación, listas de vocabulario, notas culturales y la clase. Lo puedes descargar de forma instantánea desde Inglés.fm. Nos vemos.